Then the two remaining surfaces, the rear way, the front of the rear way first. Okay, 0.03 of a millimeter wear. And then the rear of the front way, both the saddle or the carriage and tailstock has produced some wear, quite significant wear also, or a long distance actually. So measuring once again carefully, just to make sure. So verify the readings many times to be certain before scraping. It's hard to put material on again. And, this confirms, namely, that the wear is actually up to 0.08 of a millimeter, quite a long distance. So one more reading just to be certain, and I can say 7 to 0.08 of a millimeter, which is almost 3 thou. And then brings another tool into play here, namely the angular straight edge. It doesn't cover the headstock area, but sufficiently over the working area there. Just have to take off the hook that is used to hang the straight edges vertically, which is something I have learned to do, to hang them stress-free, as opposed to, for example, having them on the surface plate, which is not ideal for me. And this is also a feel thing, namely that when you apply the straight edge to the surface to be measured, you have to balance it, and then it's easy to have, or easiest to have it horizontal, so that you let gravity just pull it down. And then gluing up. I've been a little bit too liberal, I mean applied too thick, I think. But anyway, it is the first roughing stage. So after first having applied the compound with the paint roller, I'd like to go over it with a harder brayer, I think it's called. Because this canode I used is water-based compound, is soil-based, so there has a tendency to be some lumps of material inside there. And of course wipe off with your bare hands. And wipe off to ensure there is no grit. And then here is why you need really to have the vertical surface horizontal, so you can apply the straight edge, just laying it straight up on top, and then feel for the right contact, so letting gravity do the work. And then you of course back and forth figure eight, and also hinge the part, as we have learned. Okay. And as we will see, the results of this gluing process confirms that it's only hitting on the corners as expected, and shown by the results really from measurements. Hitting on the corners first, before any scraping is done, and quite a lot of wear. And this is normal usage for the tailstock, riding down, up and down, and then the saddle also. You could possibly also here advancing the process a little bit, namely scrape it a little bit more, but I have time. So a side note, expect the saddle wear to be at least as much as this bed wear on the inner saddle guidance way. And it's important here now to let it rest naturally, so you get a good feel, and then can locate the hinge points. And of course rub back and forth, figure eight, whatever you like, just as long as it glues up. And it has scraped in a little bit, so improving. But since this is 3 thou wear, 7 to 0.08 of a millimeter, it's going to take quite a number of cycles, I think. And one more cycle. See, creeping in even further, and over here also. And to handle this now properly, to get the feel of it, it's better to have it as long inwards as possible, so that you get to the close to the center of gravity, then in the center. And also lengthwise, you will then be able to feel the center of gravity, the hinge point, so to speak. And improving, creeping in from the sides. I got a little bit of a high in the middle feeling, and probably because it hinged around here. And now it has crept in quite a lot towards the middle there. So, but still a lot to go. Yet again. So it's creeping in even further, and you can see where it hasn't hit yet. You see some evidence of some faint stripes, and then quite a long area now where it hits. So just keep on. So another control measurement before you scrape further. So stopping at where I read the maximum deviation, which is now at 0.05 of a millimeter, 2 thou. So there is a fair amount of work left. At the same time now, I may also take another control reading. Yes, confirmed. 0.05 of a millimeter or 2 thou all the way down here. So next cycle, or possibly some more in between, I don't remember exactly, but still improving. And now it bears almost completely. You see the faint marks in the middle also. And then the next cycle, I can feel now that it hinges differently. It moves somewhat further down. And of course, without all this work, the tailstock would have been rather sloppy fit towards the headstock end here. And of course, we saw the same effect out the way, whereas if you didn't scrape this, the saddle would have been rather sloppy in the middle, or tight towards the end, as we saw it was. And without these corrections, I would claim that the machine is less useful. And as we see here, it finally covers along the length. So mission accomplished, really, with respect to having this as a guidance way. Just improving the surface quality a bit.